superintendents from Cottonwood Oak Creek and Mingus Union High School, who I thought was just there for security. I didn't mention that Mike Westcott was there. I didn't see him. Anyway, a lot of folks there. It was a good event, good turnout from the public. And then on Saturday, last Saturday, I got to attend the ribbon cutting, finally, for the Science Vortex of the Verde Valley. They're up on the Cottonwood Oak Creek Cottonwood Community School campus. So Lori Altringer, she's applied in the past for one of our community grants. But she's doing a great job up there with science programs, STEM-related programs, to get kids involved in science and all those sorts of things so they can become future Tom Whitmers. So we really appreciate her and her efforts. It was a good grand opening. And I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, I'll add that at the Safeway, they gave away, it was $50,000. So we say a few thousand, and I don't know that people really understand the magnitude, and it was pretty special to watch them give back to our community. They were all local programs, so I'm very excited. Just a couple of quick announcements. The Planning and Zoning Commission will not be holding their meeting this month in November. And then the Cottonwood Airport Commission will hold their monthly meeting tomorrow night here at 6 p.m. at City Council Chambers. The agenda can be found online at CottonwoodAZ.gov. And then I wanted to give a shout out to our artist. This month's artist is from the Lazy Cocopelli Jewelry and Paintings. Her name is Deborah Zarni, and this is a mixed media art. And again, I think everybody knows, but this is our city clerk's project, and she brings in a new artist, a local artist every month. So it continues, and it's some good art this month.
All right. Okay, then next is call to the public. This portion of the agenda is set aside for the public to address the council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda for discussion. However, the council cannot engage in discussion regarding any item that is not officially listed on the agenda for discussion and or action, and comments are limited to a 3-minute time period. And if there's anyone out there that would like to speak to the public, there's yellow forms in the back which you can fill out, and we'll get you up here for your time at the podium. And we have just one form filled out tonight from Mrs. O'Daniel, and if I could ask somebody please to help get the mic closer to her. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Well, I'm recovering from cataract surgery in both eyes, so I hope this works. Mayor Alinsky and city councilors, in November of 2020, perhaps the greatest election steal in American history took place. Arizona Senate President Karen Fann chaired a hearing earlier this year with the leaders of the Arizona audit team, who stated the following: 74,243 mail-in ballots in Maricopa County have, quote, no clear record of them being sent. 11,326 people voted, although their names did not appear on the voter rolls on November 7, but showed up on December 4. Thousands of duplicated ballots were missing serial numbers, making it impossible to match them with their corresponding ballots. 18,000 voted and then were removed from the voter rolls after the election. Verification of comparison of signatures on mail-in ballots went from 20 points to 10 to 5 and ultimately to 0. Set numbers of ballot tallies were observed being switched in real time. For the past 4 years, globalists, both inside and outside of government, have despised Donald Trump because he trumpeted America first. They vowed to destroy him, and in the process, they have destroyed the election integrity of Arizona and many other states. The two most horrendous results of this election steal have been, number one, allowing hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants, some of which are criminals, to pour across our southern border daily, resulting in the destruction of our border integrity. And two, perhaps the most immoral and treasonous of all, Afghanistan has been handed over to our sworn enemies, the Taliban, who murdered thousands of U.S. soldiers. Hundreds of U.S. citizens have been abandoned. Bagram Air Base and billions in military equipment have been left for the Taliban. No more accurate definition of treason exists. Because of this criminality, we are galloping toward oppressive world government. The Build Back Better, Great Reset globalists are in charge. Constitutionalism desperately needs to be restored. Please read the 2 articles titled Vote Fraud, Here's the Proof, and Restoring Election Integrity. I have extra copies of the latter if anyone would like one after the meeting adjourns. Restoration is possible, but if we ignore our moral duty to fight this evil insanity, there is no remedy for freedom. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Daniel. Is there anyone else here this evening that would like to address the council? All right, we'll move on then to unfinished business. Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of October 19, 2021.
I move to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of October 19th, 2021.
Second.
All right, Councilmember Henry seconded it. Councilmember Councilmember Henry made the motion. Councilmember Carrat seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved. And then unfinished business, just one item tonight. It's ordinance number 709, amending the historic preservation guidelines. This is the second and final reading. Evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Thank you. Scott Ellis, Community Development Director. Just wanted to clarify some of the stuff in here for Council, make sure there's no questions from the first reading. Just a reminder that when staff took this to the Planning Commission, it was recommended as 1,500 square feet of total floor area for the section regarding commercial residential for restaurants. That Planning and Zoning Commission recommended to Council to change that to 1,500 square feet of public area, and the clarification in there. So I just want to make sure there was no questions on that. If Council chooses to go with that original, you do have an alternative motion in front of you. If not, the motion is in the com form. The other thing I wanted to clarify is that the staff in Planning and Zoning Commission, based on a new state law, concluded that this won't increase the cost of housing by making these changes. If anything, it helps reduce that. So I just wanted to put that on the record.
Okay. I'm sorry, am I the only one that's confused about the 2 different motions? We had a first reading on this, and go ahead, Ron.
No, Mr. Mayor, Scott, back it up a little bit and explain what it is, why staff recommended what they did, why P&Z did. So start with what it actually is.
Okay.
And let's start over.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Council. So when staff brought this to the Planning Commission, it was recommended at 1,500 square feet total floor area because it is in a commercial residential zone.
What was recommended at 1,500 feet?
Food and beverage establishments, so your smaller restaurants that basically it's a home that's now converted into a restaurant. Mm-hmm. The reason for that is in that area, in that mixture, that commercial and residential, you don't necessarily want the bigger restaurants that can accommodate a lot of people. There's also some building code changes on the capacity and the occupancy on that. Mm-hmm. So typically in those areas, you'll find those smaller scale restaurants. If you open that up larger, similar to what the Planning Commission recommended, then it takes that away. Now you're going to have bigger restaurants, more capacity that's kind of pushed into some of these residential areas as well. And we do have a few examples over here on Main Street of some homes that have been converted to restaurants over the years. They fit, but again, they're on that smaller scale. So I just wanted to make sure Council didn't have any questions on that moving forward. And that's why you have the 2 motions. Mm-hmm. If you did choose to go with the Planning Commission's motion or recommendation, that's the motion in the com form. If you wanted to go with what staff presented to the Commission before they recommended differently, that's the other motion you have in front of you.
Because the motion in the communication form is simply to approve ordinance number 709.
Correct. So that, the way it's written in the motion is with that 1,500 square feet of public area, not total area.
Okay. But their recommendation is total area, not
sorry, Mr. Mayor, their recommendation is public area. Staff's was total area.
Okay. Is that clear to everyone?
So, Mr. Mayor and Council, I think the Commission's recommendation would be a more expansive use, allowable use, and staff's recommending a more restrictive one.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So what's the downside, bottom line?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Wilden, basically, if you approve the 1,500 square feet of public area, you can have a much larger restaurant that might be closer mixed in with residential areas. And again, that's just the public area. So that's your dining area, that's your outdoor patio area. That's not including if you had another 1,500 or 2,000 square feet of kitchen area, prep area. So it can make it substantially larger. 1,500 square feet is about the average of a home size that you see in those areas anyways. So to keep it as total 1,500, that includes everything, your kitchen, your prep areas, your dining, your waiting, everything like that. And you can have about 50 or so people in a 1,500 square foot restaurant seating capacity.
So 1,500 is what you're saying is normal? Well, what I will call normal?
Yes, ma'am. In an area like this, in a mixed use area, commercial, residential, yes.
But either way, the property would still be subject to all of the setbacks and other requirements of the ordinance, regardless of the 1,500 square feet, if it were total or just the public space, right?
Correct.
Including parking and all of that.
Yes, ma'am.
And have we had any inquiries at the planning office on proposals, restaurant proposals in this area that, you know?
No, Mr. Mayor, Council, we have not had anything like that at this time would be subject to either one of these restrictions or allowances.
Okay.
The best way to look at it is more times than not, you're going to have something come into an existing structure in an area like this, not necessarily a new build. Could happen, but especially the area we have right now, the CR areas that we have, pretty much built out. So any restaurant is more likely to come into an existing structure. There's a few lots that it could be a new build, but not very many.
Okay. I guess my preference would be to start with 1,500 total, and if it seems like that's too restrictive and the businesses can't succeed, then we look at expanding that. But I'm curious to hear from the other council members.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I'm fine with that.
Okay. Okay. Sure, please.
Okay, I move to approve ordinance number 709, specifying a 1,500 square foot total floor area for food and beverage establishments in section 420.D.9.
I'll second that. So Mayor makes, Councilmember Wilden made the motion, and you can have it. And Mayor seconded it. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Henry?
Yes.
Councilmember Curott?
Yes.
Councilmember Naren?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilden?
That's Mayor Weldon? Yes.
Vice Mayor Halls?
Yes.
Mayor Alinsky?
Yes. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, consent agenda is up next, so the following items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council, will be approved by one motion. Yes, so let's pause for a moment and have our clerk read ordinance number 709 by title only.
Ordinance number 709, an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending the zoning ordinance by amending Section 405 signs and Sections 413D, 414D, 415D, 418D, 420D, and 427. Mr. Mayor.
All right, thanks. Okay, so consent agenda. Following items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council, will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. So we have two items tonight. First is a proposed amendment number 1 to the professional services contract with Hazen and Sawyer to provide engineering and design services for biological treatment process improvements for the Mingus wastewater treatment plant aeration system. And item 2 is purchase of a sewer vac cleaning truck from Arizona Wastewater Industries, Inc., AWI. Is there any item that a council member or member of the public would like to have pulled? All right, I'll motion then to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Naren seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, it's approved. Okay, new business. Following items are for council discussion, consideration, and possible legal action. First up is proposed reclassification of the utility manager position to an assistant utility director position. Welcome back.
I'm back. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Amanda Wilbur, HR Director. It's been a while since I've been here. Tonight I'm here to talk to you about a reclassification of a position. Recently, our current utility manager has announced his retirement. And as you know, our current utility director, Tom Whitmer, has been fulfilling the director position on top of his current duties of the Water Resources Administrator position. So he's essentially still doing two positions. With that, staff has looked at how we move forward successfully in the department, and we've determined that we would need a position that's kind of in the middle between our manager position and our current director position. So we are looking to request approval to reclassify the utility manager position into an assistant utility director position. This would move the position from a range 29 on our salary scale to a range 33. And what that means is this year there wouldn't be really a budget impact because the current manager is at the top of range 29, which is a very similar number to the midpoint of range 33, which is the new position. Our hiring rules say that our city manager has the hiring authority to offer someone a position up to the midpoint of the range. So since those two numbers are very similar, there wouldn't really be an impact this year. Of course, with a range change, that would impact future budget years though. So with that, I welcome any questions that you might have about the potential, or well, requested reclassification.
Mr. Mayor, before you open to questions, she left out a word that I just want to make sure that the public hears, and that's succession planning. So we don't currently have anybody that would be able to take over when the incumbent leaves. There's nobody automatically that would be able to fill Tom's position if he were to retire or resign. As you know, we've got a lot going on in our utility department. So part of this position is making sure we can hire someone who has both water and wastewater experience and that would be able to fill in for Tom or take over for Tom or assist in those manners. So this is not just about upgrading a position, it's about succession planning for the organization.
Okay. Council, do we have any questions on this?
What's the impact next year? You said it wouldn't be impactful this year, but how about next year? What are you thinking?
It really would just depend on where someone was brought into the range and what we do for all of our staff. So, for example, this year, staff got a minimum of 4% when we approved the compensation study. So if someone was brought in at the midpoint of the range, which could be anywhere from minimum to midpoint, and we had something like that for staff, it would then increase the salary by that much in the future years too. So it wouldn't be a large impact next year. It would be like any other staff, but long term, there would be the potential to increase it to the maximum of the range. Usually that takes someone quite a few years to get there, so it definitely wouldn't be an immediate large impact. It would be slowly over time.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? No? Okay. I'll go ahead and move to approve reclassifying the current utility manager position to an assistant utility director position at a range 33.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion. I believe Councilmember Karat seconded it. And roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Henry?
Yes.
Councilmember Cura?
Yes.
Councilmember Naren?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilden?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Halls?
Yes.
Mayor Alinsky?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is professional services agreement with Yes, the ARC for groundskeeping services for the city.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. My name is David Hausman. I'm the Public Works Director for the City of Cottonwood. Tonight I'm here to discuss a possible labor agreement with Yes, the ARC and the City of Cottonwood for groundskeeping services around city facilities. Most of you may not know, Yes, the ARC has been serving adults with developmental disabilities in the Verde Valley since 1974. They provide employment opportunities, including community and placement, job coaching, and contracted work. Yes, the ARC approached the city for the possibility to contract for groundskeeping services at various city properties to include our parks, trails, and our city building facilities. Their duties would include raking, weed control by hand removal, picking up trash, emptying trash cans, blowing city parking lots, walkways, and other similar duties as needed by the city. Yes, the ARC plans to provide 3 members with job coaches for 4 days a week, 4 to 5 hours a day. They're proposing a rate of $14.49 per hour per member. Staff was proposing council approve a 6-month contract with a not-to-exceed fee of $20,865. As council is aware, this is an unbudgeted expense, and staff is requesting the use of council's undesignated reserves. I've included a breakdown of the council's undesignated reserves in the council communication. And our reasoning for only doing this contract for a 6-month time frame was that it was not budgeted. Staff does plan to come in FY23 and budget for a year extension on that contract. So, okay. With that, we also have members of staff members here with Yes the ARC. If council has any comments or questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, great. Do we have any questions for Mr. Hausman? No? Okay. We have Ms. Soto here too from Yes the ARC. I don't know if anyone has any questions for her. She's the executive director, correct? Yep, okay, good. Glad I got that right. Yeah, would you like to come up and just make a brief presentation?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Melanie Soto, Executive Director of Yes the ARC, and we have a group-supported employment program where we provide a job coach with our individuals to help support them in their employment goals. And so this is more of a stepping stone for them for independent employment. And we've been very successful in the past with this program, and we wanted to extend this to the city as well.
All right, fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit about other agencies that you work with or other employers that you work with?
Sure. So we had a contract with Yavapai County for many years, and we did a lot of the groundskeeping at the jail, the park in Rimrock, and then the health department here in town as well. And it was similar type services that we provided. We've also contracted with Sedona Recycles in the past and provided a similar type of service.
Great. All right, any questions for Ms.?
So you already have the equipment, correct?
Correct, yeah.
I know other cities have done similar programs and they've been extremely successful.
Great.
Mr. Mayor, while she's standing there, she brought this idea a few months ago to us because of an opportunity in their schedule. So they had a contract that no longer have, and so normally we like to plan ahead for these budget kinds of things, but this opportunity arose. We'll try it for 6 months. If it's cost effective and it works for us, then we'll come back to council on that. But a great opportunity to employ some of those individuals in our community when they had this opening. So if it pleases council, hopefully we'll get that through tonight and reevaluate in a few months.
Okay, very good. All right, anything else, council? No, okay, I'm ready for a motion.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
I move to approve the proposed service agreement with Yes the ARC for specified groundskeeping services for 6 months, with the option for a 1-year renewal after that initial period, subject to approval of the final form of agreement by the city attorney.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Nairn made the motion. Councilmember Wilden seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Henry?
Yes.
Councilmember Curott?
Yes.
Councilmember Nairn?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilden?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Halse?
Yes.
Mayor Alinsky?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, good, thank you. All right, last tonight is item 3, procurement policy waiver and sole source purchase request to purchase the CompStat, officer productivity, and community dashboard modules for the Spelman public safety software application.
Hi, Mayor Linsky and Council. My name is John Carter. I'm the Information Technology Director. Tonight, the item before you is the purchase of 3 dashboard modules for our Spelman public safety application. And this was in our capital budget, you'll see. So what this is 3 community dashboards, which are just modules within our 911 public safety Spelman application. The reason it's in front of you tonight is the cost of those items, plus that it's a sole source, and that is unavoidable as it's only available from Spelman, which is now a Motorola product. The community dashboard provides the police to allow the public to view the crime rates and the incidents and offenses that are around the city. The command staff productivity dashboard allows our administrators to pull statistics from our crime data and then police a little more effectively, put their efforts wherever they feel they need to be. And the officer productivity dashboard helps them with, obviously, placing those officers, how the officers are doing, and that sort of thing. Tonight, I have Commander Braxton Johnson is here if you have a little more detailed questions about what each individual dashboard does. Otherwise, this was budgeted in the capital budget, as I said. It was budgeted at $52,325. That did not, unfortunately, take into account tax, so the tax would bring that total to $57,110.49. That difference would be made up in the IT budget. We have done some things where we really think we can make that money up there. And also the annual maintenance cost, as it's added to our current Spelman portfolio of $78,000, would add approximately $5,700. That is a guess. It probably will be a little bit less than that. So with that, I would take any questions you have, or
what is
any questions for Commander Braxton Johnson.
Mr. Carter. What is it that needs to be maintained with the systems?
It's just an annual software maintenance, as we do with all of our software for Microsoft and all these things. It's really a fee so that if there are upgrades, if they need to assist us with it, if we have problems with the application that Motorola would have to help us with.
Okay.
It's a standard fee for most software programs. It's charged every year.
And it's charged by Spelman to the city? Is that how that works? Okay, got it. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Carter or Commander Braxton?
I just had a question or a request for clarification on the software, the dashboard that reduces the need for random patrols. So what does that mean for how our police department's going to operate moving forward?
I think I'll direct that one to Commander Braxton Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. So in essence, that provides a blueprint for how we direct our resources. So in other words, if there are a number of accidents that are occurring at a specific location, we will be able to determine where our officers are actually writing traffic citations. So basically an overlay and a directed patrols to the most impacted areas of the city. And so this really provides us with a crime analyst, if you will, so a position that doesn't require EREs or any other fees, but it does pull the data that we already put into our RMS or CAD system and directs our resources more appropriately to those areas that need the most attention.
So does the department anticipate changing the patrol or the random nature of the patrol, and are there any impacts to the neighborhood officer program?
Absolutely, and we think this would just be another way to further direct our needs to the community and our responsiveness to the community. So the neighborhood officer programs will still be in place, but as a result of getting this data input and the output from the system, the officers will be able to see where those accidents are occurring and where there's traffic stops are occurring and where to direct those resources as most appropriate.
So we've been using the term traffic. I just want to make sure we're not targeting specific neighborhoods or houses or people with using the software.
No, not at all. As you're probably aware, we had our community input survey, and that was one of the #1, if not 2, priorities from the community members in terms of what they would like to see more of, which is increased traffic enforcement. So it's not directed towards specific individuals or people, but the concept of traffic enforcement, which a component is the education and then the enforcement.
Mr. Mayor, Council, if I can also add, one of the neat things about this tool is we often get complaints, Cactus Street periodically, people ask us to slow down traffic at Cactus. So we run data, we look for accidents, we do all that. This will now be at their fingertips. So instead of taking however long hours or days to gather the intel about traffic stops already made there, about the number of accidents at an intersection, they'll be able to use this tool to pull up that information and then either give feedback to the community or send over an officer, to beef up enforcement in that area. It's just a way to use the data they already have more effectively and more efficiently. Because there's no new data. It's like you said, a crime analyst. It's a way to better analyze the data that we already have.
And I'm still not clear because we keep using traffic, but this will track all crimes, not just traffic, correct?
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if we have a neighborhood, high crime neighborhood, so who will be privy to that information? Because we have we have 3 different dashboards we're discussing here.
Correct. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilmember Henry, that would be available to the public. That would be available to our officers as well as command staff. And so in the full spectrum of transparency, it's available for everyone. So everyone would know the specific areas that, or specific items that are being reported and currently captured.
And I apologize, just hopefully one last question. So, because I understand that these 3 are add-ons to the software or the program, the Spelman program or set of programs, whatever it is. Sorry, I think our IT director is probably cringing over there at my lack of IT knowledge. Do any of our neighboring jurisdictions use these particular dashboards or any other policing, law enforcement agencies in the state? Do we have reviews and all of those things for these 3 dashboards?
Councilmember or Mayor Linsky, Vice Mayor Hulse, Councilmember Henry, I do not have that information for you, but I can tell you that it is a very popular and widely used concept. Comparative statistics that has been in place for a number of years, predominantly out east, and has migrated out west over a number of years, coined by NYPD in terms of what's happening in a specific neighborhood, and as opposed to always doing random patrols and hoping to capture a crime in place or in progress, we can now dedicate resources to those high incident locations to better direct our resources.
Mr. Mayor, Council, the City of Yuma implemented these modules before I left the City of Yuma. Very successful way to adjust police staffing. It is a public record. It is, you can go onto Yuma's website, their police department's website. You can pull up a zip code, you can pull up a neighborhood, and you can filter it by the crime. You can filter it by all sorts of stuff. And I know it makes some people nervous about that, but it's public data. There's nothing confidential in there. And it really creates a layer of transparency on what our community, what's going on in our community that isn't currently accessible. A lot of times, as even the neighborhood police officer, and correct me if I'm going too far, Commander, but it's hit or miss if that officer's there to see the infraction, to see the problem. This allows them to pull up the data for their neighborhood, better evaluate the kind of efforts they need to be making. It's just another tool for them to help keep the neighborhoods safe and clean.
And thank you for that, Mr. Corbin. Are you aware of any instances where the software didn't work properly or where the information was misused? Because I don't know if it's reported in lifetime, but do you have any instances of the flip side of that use, like you mentioned, the transparency?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember, I do not, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So let us go back to the table on that one and get back to you. The other thing is we'll bring up a demo once this goes live, if approved by council, to show council how it works and what it looks like. But between the commander and I, we'll follow up with the City of Yuma, Police Chief Smith, and get some information to make sure they don't have any instances of negative.
And I would appreciate that. I can't speak for my fellow council members, but for me, this is a pretty significant policy decision to make tonight. And I don't know that we were provided, or I don't feel as though I was provided good enough information about that particular dashboard in order to make a meaningful vote. So I personally would appreciate it, but again, I can't speak for the rest of council.
Okay. Any other questions from council members? No, I had just 2 questions. One, will it require any additional training for your officers?
Yes, it will, and usually that is a component that's added in with the purchase price, but in order to access the data and pull the requisite reports, there will be a training component.
Okay. And then the other question is, can this analyze data from years prior? Or is it just from this point, once approved, if approved, from that point forward?
Yes, just sorry, jump in there. Because we've been using the Spelman application for years here in the city. Sorry. It will pull all the previous data from, and it's also, one other thing I'd like to make sure everybody understands. The community dashboard is the only one that would be present to the public. The other two are internal and would be used by staff.
Okay.
Is there any type of time constraint to purchase this?
No, I don't know of any.
In other words, if we looked into it further, it wouldn't cause some sort of a problem or a contract issue?
No, not that I know of.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Well, I think it sounds like getting a little bit more information would be helpful. Maybe even if we can get a demo or something. I know obviously we don't have it yet, but if we can try to get something together where I think the concern mostly is around the community dashboard and what's available to the public for that, or through that dashboard.
Yes, and if I may, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the council, that's typically one of the questions that we often field within the police department, either from our tourism director or members that are looking to migrate into Cottonwood, is how safe is Cottonwood? How do you pull your statistics? Are they available online? And so we believe that, you know, in the truest sense of transparency, this is another way to demonstrate you know, what we're doing well and ways we can improve. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I can see an awful lot of benefit to this, but I can sense too that we just want a little bit more information on what it looks like from the community's perspective. So, yeah. Thank you. Mr. Vice Mayor, yes, sir.
Yep. I'm familiar with this program. We used it when I was in Colorado. It was very successful inside the police department in that we knew where our crime problems were occurring. Outside the police department, the public section showed the public by type of crime where the crimes were occurring in a community. It was very helpful for the community members because they knew if they had a problem and they weren't seeing officers that they could call in and report that and get things straightened out. It was beneficial to the officers because they weren't driving around with nothing to do, looking for something to happen. When they had areas that they knew there were problems, they could set up, stake them, and work them with success. It was beneficial to the public, as the mayor pointed out, people coming into the community looking to buy a home. You could go into that neighborhood, look at the crime rates in that neighborhood, go by specific crimes, burglaries, rapes, robberies, homicides, what have you, and see what kind of activities. And when you got to a neighborhood where there were a lot of red dots, you knew that was a neighborhood you probably did not want to be involved in, and you would move on to the next one. And as Commander pointed out, the public only sees the results. They don't have any access to the internal information as to what has happened, but they can see where the crimes are occurring, whether it be traffic or other criminal events. And it is a very good program, and I'm sure the number of years I've been gone, it's probably 1,000% better than what I was working with. So I think it's a neat program, and I'm glad to see we're investigating it.
And I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for your firsthand comments. I do have another request, though, for information. Can you also, if there's a way, find out how many law enforcement agencies of our size and cities or towns of our size utilize this software? Again, and I think part of part of what might be helpful with the demo is to see exactly what demographic information is being released as well. So thank you.
All right. Anything else from council? No? Okay. All right, we'll go and table that item then and bring it back for our next regular meeting. Appreciate your time. Thank you. All right, next up is claims and adjustments, and I would motion to pay the claims.
Second.
All right, Mayor made the motion, Vice Mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Henry seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.